Hi there, my name is Greg Lawrence. I'm co-founder of Chinchilla and creator of SuperHuge. This short video will give you an understanding of what SuperHuge is and how it can help you create huge objects and sculpture. And just quickly from the ground up, SuperHuge is a brand new proprietary system by Chinchilla Limited. It prints 3D objects up to 5 meters cubed, so it's about around 16 feet. It uses high density fire rated polystyrene and it prints directly from a 3D file. SuperHuge was born of 25 years running Hothouse IWG, where we created models for toy development, exhibition, film TV, display, experiential, product launch, PR stunts and corporate sculpture, you name it. If it needed to be bespoke, if it needed to be beautiful, that's where we came in, and we created thousands of projects for hundreds of ad agencies over the 25 years. Just a few examples here. 2012 Olympic clock, obviously. We created a polar bear and put it on the Thames. We created the audio slave Flame for the album cover. Storm Thorgerson. We made the world's only, or first and only, amphibious ice cream van. We made a Batmobile, giant headphones, the world's tallest chocolate fountain for Cadbury, a unique bottle shop that was completely clear, and even down to the fixings, dead clear. Yeah, you name it, we've made it. Here's Turbo the snail, who went 70 miles an hour at Goodwood, with a laughing Chris Evans there. I think he was a bit upset because we overtook him. So award-winning work for Ogilvy, TV and film, like I say, all sorts of different things over the years, including the Strictly Trophy. Many brands and some really big work as well. I could see over the years, and especially over in the last few years, how 3D printing was liberating designers, and obviously that's on a smaller scale, and to an extent we used it, but it was changing the way people were thinking, and it was changing the way people were working. But I found that when it came to large objects, it was painfully slow, painfully expensive, and accuracy and reliability was always an issue. And we, to an extent, were experts, or are experts, at creating these large objects as tight as possible to the brief. But my dream was always to be able to design something in a computer to solve all of the problems in the computer before it hits the workshop. Because as soon as it hits the workshop and you're trying to solve problems along the way, you're obviously having to move large objects and large things around to try and make all that work. And especially if you've got a problem, say for example here with this Rick Owens sculpt with the position of the head, and you need to move it, you've got to chop it off and reposition it and fill the gaps. It becomes very expensive and very difficult, and it can cause problems for clients, it can cause problems for deadlines, which ultimately is not helping anybody. So my dream was, wouldn't it be great to be able to solve all the problems and technical issues in a computer before starting in a workshop? So I followed my instincts and I created a flexible and unique system that means we can work from a 3D file, and we can liberate designers of large-scale projects, whether it's 3D billboards, whether it's theme parks, large retail display, film sets, pop-up shops, even specialist swimming pool manufacturers. This is a far-reaching system, and I think it's going to hopefully inspire people to create some really fantastic work. So what I'd like to do is give you an idea of what a standard print might be, or how it might look. So I've got Rex here from our logo. that I can use for a great example. So first up, 5 meters. So let's say we want to use the head, and let's say we wanted to use it as an entranceway for a theme park, perhaps, something like that, so people can walk in through here and out through the back of the throat, or maybe it's a kid's slide or something like that. So if I just click over here, you can see I've cut the head ready, so you can have a look. And this is the beauty of this system. It's all digital, it's all in the computer. Now I can punch a hole through, I can cut a doorway at the back, I can, to an extent, I can say, okay, well, let's have some stairs coming down, for example. All these things are able to be printed within the system. And it might be that, for example, from a health and safety point of view, that with the stairs, you might want to put have tread on there or do something different. But at least, even as a basic, you've got the shapes there, and you've got the setup to be able to have chippies come in and put the tread on top. And that is a great thing. It's great to be able to think that you can design the thing inside and out. If I just give a bit of scale here, look, we've got our little blue men, and it's great. It means that you can consider every single aspect of this object, and you can decide how you want it to look. You can think about scale, so you can say, okay, let's just have a look here. For example, you might want the doorway a little bit bigger, so we choose the move tool, and ideally I would have the curve tool turned off. Here we go. So let's just raise this up, bring it out a bit. Okay, all right, you get the picture. We can modify it, we can pull it around, we can, to an extent, we can do what we like with it. So 5 meters cubed, that would make, to this scale, that would make to the height here about just under 5 meters, so maybe 4 meters and 60 or something like that. It would have a 10mm resolution, so then we would finish by hand once the formed print comes out. And the really nice thing about this is you can use this theory to build something like a pop-up shop or a themed environment. So, you know, it might be that it's a bigger object and you can go inside it and it's actually a complete environment. It's one of those things that's just open to your imagination, really. So the hollow aspect, if you, for example, thought that, let's just say we wanted to make the T-Rex head, but we wanted his mouth to be shut, so it was more of a solid looking object. All of the objects that we print, when they are of that kind of volume, would come out hollow. So this one would still be hollow inside here. You basically and effectively would have a wall thickness of around 200mm. So this tongue area, for example, would probably be mainly solid. but this part underneath the jaw and coming into the neck would be hollow. And you can also think, well, okay, what about, let's think, what about if we want smoke coming out of his nose? Well, the great thing about the SuperHuge system is that we can build cavities within the sculpture, and they will come out and they will be printed. So if you have a cavity within it already, then when your special effects man comes along to fit the tube that's going to go the run from the bottom to the top, so that you've got a service panel or something, you've got your cavity already there, and he just needs to drill a hole, feed the tube down, and it will drop right down into the bottom. And I've got a feeling that I can show you and give you an idea of that. There you go. So there's your channel inside the head. If I just flip that, you'll see there it goes all the way down, and that is the size of the cavity. So and that's, you know, that's something that you can design into these objects. You know, if you wanted his eyes to light up, we can feed a channel down and around wherever you like, so that the electrics can be fed right through it. And the same goes for structure. So at its most basic, you have a polystyrene fire rated print, sanded and finished, that's accurate to a 3D file. It has internal cavities or internal tubeways or channels that are ready for any kind of service that you want to feed, whether it's, I don't know, smoke or gas or electric or water. You can feed it through. Okay. Taking it on a level, how about if you want to create a giant billboard and you want the dinosaur hanging off it? Let's have a look. Let's go back to Rex. Let's get rid of these. And now we're back to Rex. And we want him poking out through a billboard. Well, first up, one thing to bear in mind, if I just put this on transparent, and this is on our website, this image, we can build steel structure or scaffolding channels within the print. So from a structural perspective, if this fella was 30 feet tall, for example, we can build a structure within it that is signed off by structural engineers to be safe and strong for short-term, medium-term or long-term projects, interior, exterior. It just depends on the brief, and it can be signed off by structural, which is, in the first instance, it's a really massive step forward by comparison to traditional methods. Equally interesting is the idea that you can take that structural aspect and use it on things like giant billboards. And I've just mocked up a very basic shape here, look. Now if you just bear with me a second and I just get rid of that. Oops, wrong one. Let me go back. I'm choosing the wrong thing. Here we go. Try once more. Okay, almost there. Okay, that'll do. That'll do. Okay, so here's our billboard. Here's our T-Rex. And again, traditionally, you might give somebody like this a brief, and what are they going to do with it? They have to make a giant polystyrene thing. It's too big to CNC. So you give it to a giant polystyrene sculpting company, a bit like Hot House, and there's a lot of complexity in building something which is safe. And now it's 100 times simpler, because we can talk to the structural with regards to the structural loadings of the billboard or whatever it's being mounted to, and then we create the structure within this and within the cavities, and it's all built in, all done, and it's a whole lot simpler. So when it comes to things like billboards and attaching things at height or on the side of buildings, it really opens things up and makes things potentially a whole lot safer and easier and quicker. Again, you solve all the problems in the computer before it heads into the workshop. So you're just printing it, and then once it's printed, it gets smoothed, detailed, coated in whatever you want to coat it in, paint it, finish it, and you're away. So what about your workflow? So SuperHuge is front-end heavy, so this is a massive help to you. It means all of the problems and all of the issues are solved in the design, early stages of the project, before it hits the workshop, as I said earlier. And this reduces all of the stress and all of the worry from the project. This gives massive amount of control to you. This gives reassurance to you. So what you see is what you get. It gives extra reassurance in as far as SuperHuge is quantifiable. So it makes deadlines predictable. There are no issues going to come along like it's been sculpted wrong, it's been fabricated wrong. No, it goes through the same system, the same process, and that is quantifiable, and that gives you extra reassurance. It also makes you time rich, so after signing off there's nothing to do till delivery day, and albeit of course you'll have your own day-to-day work that you need to do, you'll have other work on project or maybe other projects that you're working on, which is all fine. It just means that this frees you up to be able to pursue those things and not be stuck worrying about whether we're going to sculpt something properly for you. So what about design? What can be designed? I think what I'd like to say, or at least stress, is that when it comes to concepting, anything can be designed in the computer. The limitations are always going to be in the SuperHuge system, and I'll go through those in a second. But at least from a design or from a concept point of view, if you can find some Google images and you can get them to us so that we can concept from them, then anything is possible. There's no real issues there. And you can see here that we've gone from images of Steve Jobs to a 3D sculpture, and I painted that sculpture and made it watertight, made it printable, and printed it. And it's as simple as that. What you can see here, here's a few things that are worthwhile pointing out. So where are the limitations with SuperHuge? If you look at the glasses, we have 3D printed with traditional 3D printing methods, the glasses. Now, the polystyrene SuperHuge system is made for big things. So while this SuperHuge print is 10 feet tall, the glasses are too fine for it to be able to print. So we sometimes will use, for very fine elements or for very thin elements, we'll use either CNC or 3D printing for those smaller elements. You can see here on the hand, deliberately left it unfinished, and you can see this is how a print comes out in its virgin state before it's smoothed. So you can just make out along the edge here, look, the 10mm slices that create a print. And then you can see here in the beard where the the detail of the beard had to be sanded back in. So there's still an element of sculpting that goes into a SuperHuge print, and that's done at our end, at the end when it's all being finished. And it's a quick process because polystyrene is nice and soft, and it means that we can finish it exactly how we like. Here's another example of a 3D print from files. So this hand was just over 1.5 meters tall. It's about as small as you can go with a 3D print, SuperHuge 3D print. You can see across here in the width of the fingers, we're looking at around a minimum of about 200 millimeters, 150 to 200 millimeters as a minimum for the smallest or narrowest point between of an object. This hand was scanned. We have 3D scan facilities, so we can scan a hand and bring it in, clean it up, change it, distort it, do what you like to it really, and then get it ready for output to printing. And so you can see there's a fair element of accuracy between a digital file and then a SuperHuge 3D print. And I think when it comes to what can be designed and what can be printed, try not to limit yourself with ideas, or bring the ideas to us and let us steer you as to what's possible. So just to give you a few ideas, with the SuperHuge now, you can take a concept like a Spider-Man on the side of a building and make him 20 feet tall, knowing that the structure will be built within him and your structural fixings will be good. And to an extent, you can have him coated, painted, finished, and know that there's a very high element here of accuracy, and so it makes it a lot simpler for you. If you're not so sure about a real Spider-Man, you can go for a Lego man. But the sky's the limit with these things. Anything big, anything amazing. Even the world's biggest selfie. Let's have a 20-foot selfie. Try and take it to the next level, I guess. Thanks for watching. I hope this made sense. Any questions? Chinchilla3D.com. You can use the web form, which we have a 2-hour response on, or you email info@chinchilla3d.com, and we welcome your inquiries.